Hi everyone, in this video we'll be going over the different types of chemical bonds. So we know that a chemical bond is how one atom connects to another atom. But what are the different types of chemical bonds? The types of chemical bonds depends on the electronegativity of the atoms involved in the bond. Electronegativity is an atom's ability to attract electrons. So let's look at an example here. Let's say we have a sodium atom and a chlorine atom. Sodium has an electronegativity value of 0.9 from literature, and chlorine has a value of 3.0. This gives them an electronegativity difference of 2.1. As you can see, chlorine has a much stronger pull on electrons than sodium does. This makes a lot of sense because when we look at their valence shells, sodium has 1 and chlorine has 7. So chlorine really wants that last electron to fill up its shell. So it has a pretty strong electronegativity. Now what happens here is this electron from sodium gets pulled off because sodium really doesn't have a super strong electronegativity here. And chlorine takes it to form a positive sodium cation bonded to a negative chlorine anion. And this is called an ionic bond. And it results when the electronegativity difference is greater than 2. It's called an ionic bond because, as you can see, once that electron is taken from sodium to chlorine, they both become ions and they're bonded to one another through their electrostatic attraction and them having opposite electric charges. Other than an ionic bond, we also have something called a covalent bond. And this results when we have an electronegativity difference of less than 1.7. In this instance, neither atom is quite strong enough to pull an electron completely from the other. So for an example, we have hydrogen and chlorine here. The electronegativity difference between these two atoms is not strong enough for chlorine to completely take this electron from hydrogen. However, it's just strong enough for them to share this electron. So what we get here is a full shell on both atoms, but they share that one electron so that they can both fill their shells and be happy, but neither one can completely take it from the other to form two ions. We can further differentiate covalent bonds by determining whether it's polar or nonpolar. A polar covalent bond is one where the electronegativity difference is still less than 1.7, but it's greater than 0.5. We call this a polar covalent bond then because the electronegativity difference is just great enough for the electrons to be distributed more heavily towards the atom with the greater electronegativity. It's still not quite strong enough to completely pull that electron away, but it's strong enough for the electrons to sort of gravitate more towards the atom with a stronger pull. So at any given moment, we would likely see a stronger distribution of electrons towards chlorine than hydrogen because chlorine still does have a greater electronegativity. And we can denote this with a delta minus, a partial negative, and a partial positive charge. And this is a dipole, which is why it's called a polar covalent bond. On the other hand, if the difference in electronegativity is less than 0.5, we would form a nonpolar covalent bond. And this is really common with two atoms that are the same that are bonded to one another. So let's say we had an oxygen bonded to another oxygen. Because they have equal electronegativities, at any given moment, the electrons are likely to be distributed relatively evenly between the two. So we don't really have a dipole like we did before. So this would be called a nonpolar covalent bond.